morning, everyone, and welcome to Talking Horses. Sarah Bodway and Andy Serling, as we are coming to you on a gorgeous day. Actually, we are in fact actually fast and firm. Unfortunately, a little more rain down in Maryland, and track is sloppy and sealed right now. I would think, because I think it's supposed to clear up, that hopefully it'll be a bit drier by the Preakness. And I have a question for you as we start. I'm constantly hearing how great it is for Mystic Dan if the track is wet. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't think he's a wet track specialist. I think it's nice to know that he can handle it, but I don't think it's something that moves him up significantly. I know that people just look at that race that he won at Oaklawn over a wet track, but you and I and several others feel as though it was more a situation about rail bias that he rode rather than the off track.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously handled a wet track at Oaklawn. And I agree with you. And it was an extreme rail bias that day. And, it's a tricky thing. To be fair, if he were 3 or 4 to 5 in here, I'd say it's a bad thing it rained, because you never want to be a short price if it rained, because it's going to play randomly for everybody, and it may help or hurt. And a wet track at Pimlico is not necessarily a wet track at Oaklawn Park, and all wet tracks are far from the same. And it's interesting that he is not clearly the favorite. I don't think the double odds and the Black Eyed Zoos are going to hold up. I don't think Tuscan Gold's going to be the favorite, but it is pretty clear that Mystic Dan in no way is going to separate himself from the field and be 8 to 5 or so.
He won't be overwhelming.
Yeah, which
Which is fine.
Well, it's fine. It's all fine. But the question is, what price should he be?
Well, with Muth out, I mean, shouldn't he be under 2 to 1?
I'm not sure he shouldn't be. Yeah, I think he's the horse to beat in here, and clearly you do too. If you think he should be under 2 to 1. I picked against him because I thought he'd be massively overbet, and it's interesting that as things have evolved, they're now not even massively overbetting the Derby winner in the Preakness. So things have changed a lot in this game.
And certainly we see a lot of
we
wrong
put any fractions up
happen.
at Pimlico?
So
Sarah and I have a $1 wager on the final.
24 and 0.60. You might win. We'll see.
Sarah and I have if you're playing
friendly
Pimlico, the track is not listed accurately.
Good.
This is if you're not a Naira Bets bettor, you're not allowed to list to this. This is only for the Naira Bets customers. It's sloppy and sealed, and the turf is likely soft. We'll see what happens. Turf had a lot of given yesterday. We saw slower times. Nice performance, by the way, by the horse Cherie DeVoe trains in the turf race. The 3-year-old filly, She Feels Pretty, who
that
a lot
was
of us,
impressive.
Yeah, a lot of us thought should have won the Breeders' Cup
impressive.
Juvenile Fillies Turf last year. She was good.
I think that out of all the races that I was able to watch yesterday while we were obviously here doing stuff, that was the one that impressed me the most.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who she was beating or anything, but my gosh,
the way she did it, just cruised right up, not
11
even
and
asked,
change,
and then,
the last 16th. Yeah,
it was impressive.
She was rolling.
Oh, half and 51.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. What is that, 118 or 16?
118.35.
118.35. I'm starting to look like a favorite. I tried to sucker Sarah in with a 151.
But see, the thing is, I don't necessarily believe the time will be accurate.
I do.
Well, no one can tell time.
If you start lying about times, they should shut the doors. Let's see what they hit the mile.
Oh, a horse is actually closing.
Anyhow, head over to Naira Bets if you're not enough of this idiocy. Naira Bets, and use the promo code MATCH200. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit.
Very correct.
Play through Naira Bets. We list the track conditions accurately here.
You should get $2 for that.
151.23. I almost nailed it. I actually wanted to make it higher.
Yeah.
151.23.
I'll give you $2.
I would take the over on that. Track stats, check them out while you're over at Naira Bets as well. And we also have, we got so much stuff going on today. 25,202 in the Pick 6 carryover. Starts in race 6. Things started blowing up midway through. My good friend who took a little shot with that 40 to 1 shot, unfortunately in the Pick 5, did not use the next winner.
Oh, devastating.
That sucked, yeah.
If you have Somama Beach, you want to be clear the rest of the way.
It's not like the next winner was easy, and that was an odd race as it turned out. What else do we have here? We got, the middle Pick 4. We also got 3 Pick 5s. So where are these, Sarah?
Mandatory payout Pick 5.
Race 4, I think.
Race
4,
4
6,
for
7,
mandatory
8.
payout Pick 5.
Race 5 is the third Pick 4.
Middle Pick 4 is race 5.
It's a good thing I have Sarah here to keep me
I'm here to
honest in
keep
this
track
stuff.
now.
Yeah. What else do we have? We have a $40 bonus bet, $200 each on Belmont at the Big A and Pimlico, and you will get $40 back, win or lose. I should have opted in before the first race, but anyway, I don't think I'm betting $200 on that today. Cross Country Big 5. We've got 3 from here, and 2 from Monmouth, including the Spruce Fir. And all of these races will be shown on America's Day. A big, big day and night at America's Day at the race. 12:30 to 5. Sarah and I will be on the first half, and then I have no idea who's on the second half. I didn't even look at the rundown.
Greg and JK.
Greg and JK. Okay, thank you, Sarah. The Meg is down in the paddock. Maggie's abandoned us for today.
Yeah, she's out of here.
Well, she is a former Miss Preakness, and I think
I suppose
part of the
that's really the
contract
only
of a
reason
former
she's
Miss
there.
Preakness
You know, she has
is
to be
that she,
present for every Preakness.
I just want to say that one of the highlight of my week was getting to tease Maggie about being Miss Preakness on the
like
show.
revisiting the Queen's past.
I believe they discontinued the Miss Preakness after Maggie won it.
Well, no
which-
one can
it's a
compete
mic
after
drop.
that.
Yeah, it's a mic drop.
Yeah, it's a momentous
They didn't even know at
occasion.
that time what a star she was going to become. But also, for those of you night birds and harness fans, we have a 9 to 11 show tonight, and Acacia will be hosting
And
that.
I will
but
be
we
here
have,
for that as well.
oh, lucky you.
I know.
A very, very special guest with Acacia, the legendary driver John Campbell will be joining Acacia. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I remember you saying that's a good get yesterday.
great
I mean,
get.
I think it's fantastic that that's how we're starting off our harness coverage for the year with somebody that really knows what they're talking about.
Well, he's a true legend. You know, when I was a kid growing up in Saratoga in the 70s, Billy O'Donnell came from the Boston area and he dominated the driving there. And he went down to the Meadowlands, and he and John Campbell dominated the sport driving for many, many years. So we're excited to have John Campbell here. I think that is tremendous. I am going to tune in just to hear a little of him because I think it's really a great get.
So you'll be watching at home even though you won't be here in
I'll
person.
be long gone. Well, the subway situation. Anyway,
It gets a little
race
sketchy.
number 1. I'm going to start by showing Gun Maestro, who right now is the 5-2 second choice. Sarah has 4th. I have 3rd. I'm not overly thrilled with the crew this horse beat. I thought this horse would take money and is a little bit dubious.
Right, and I think you and I are both sort of against picking horses at short prices as they go through their conditions back to back, and he just won his non-winners of 2. Now he's stepping up to the non-winners of 3, and here he didn't exactly win this race like a 1 to 2 shot should. He was very headstrong at the beginning of this race. He wanted to be up closer to the pace. He was throwing his head up with Kendrick Carmouche in the saddle, and he just never really seemed to settle in there. I also thought there'd be other speed to his outside in this race.
So where are you going? Really, I thought he'd be the speed, but
I
I thought he'd be in front. But I just think he beat a bad field. If you look at who he ran against,
There's also
they're
that.
just not very good.
I went to Tepeyu. This is a horse that I think is going to be in front, especially with the intent to put the 7.
You think this horse is going to be in front of the 4?
Yes, I do.
Can we bet? You want double or nothing
Yes.
on the dollar
Yeah,
you just
let's do
lost?
it. $4.
Yeah. I got to tell you something. I don't want to be harsh, but I need to see more of this rider because I did not like the ride he gave on a horse yesterday.
That's fine.
Good luck to having this horse in front.
I think he's going to be in front. I
I
think
know.
the intent was clear with last time putting the blinkers on, the aggressive
With
ride that
Dylan
he
Davis.
got, facing much better horses.
I hear you. He can win.
Why would they put him on unless they want to go to the front?
I don't know, but I don't think he'll be in front, but we'll see what happens. I don't think he's the fastest horse, and I don't think he'll be in front, but it's always possible that he might be. I like Ski Country, a horse that you don't seem to have anywhere in your top 4, who's taking a significant drop. I don't know if I sent the stats in or not. I do have a bunch of stats today. I do. I have the stat. Thank you, Eddie. 50% drop in claiming price in the dirt. Michelle Nevin has strong numbers doing that. And I just wonder if they're running this horse where it can win. Now, you could say, you know, one horse or the other because Michelle has Cumberland Blues, the Grateful Dead horse, off a layoff. Michelle's numbers off layoffs, 180 days to 360 days. She's 8 for 61, 13%, 70 cent ROI, and routes 2 for 14 with a similar ROI. Didn't love that horse. I'm going to take the 6 in the drop down. You're going to take the 5 in the drop down.
Yeah, and while we're talking about the number 6 Ski Country, well, one stat of hers that isn't great, but it is a small sample size, is 1 to 7 days wheeling back. She is 0 for 11, only 1 to hit the board.
All right, we'll see what happens in race number 1. I don't totally disagree with you on the 5 being able to win the first race. I disagree with you about that horse being in front. Race number 2 are maidens, and we'll take a look at 10-10 and Jingle Jangle. I want to show the start of Jingle Jangle's race to show you this horse stumbling, and it was a pretty bad stumble at the start. How much it hurt, I don't really know.
I mean, I feel like it was significant because she stumbled forward, but she also stumbled into a rival towards her outside as well. And this was a day where you didn't really want to be towards the rail, and she ends up having more inside position, at least through the beginning portion of the race, as you take another look at that stumble there. Then her main rival towards her outside in 10-10, but at the same time, I wish she had done a little bit more running following that.
I don't disagree. I'm not in love with her. I just kind of wanted to take her second off the layoff because I don't totally trust 10-10. 10-10 will probably win this race and pay a super short price, and he probably should. She probably should. She ran well. The one thing I didn't love is she didn't really get bet in that race.
Wasn't Jingle Jangle favored?
She was in the PPs.
Yeah.
She was half the price. I believe the 10-10 will likely win. I just thought the prices would be better, and I'd take another shot. I don't see how anybody else can win this race. I don't know where you went here.
I went to Apollonia Vitelli, who I think was flattered yesterday by Poseidon's Mist coming back to win with a career best effort, the horse that she finished second to in her one start against New York Breds. And as she gets back in with New York Bred Company, when you look at that last race that she ran here, she actually got out of the gate a little bit.
Were you stoned when you handicapped this race? Seriously?
No, I saved that for after.
Seriously?
If you look at her one race against New York Bred, she didn't get out of the gate all that quickly.
She's 100 to 1. I wish you the best of luck. She looks
The
absolutely
horse that
ridiculous.
beat her
to
won
me.
yesterday with a 63 buyer.
What do you account for her performance in her other 6 races?
Not being against New York Bred Company.
So she went in the paddock and said, "You were born in New York. You were born in New York. I'm going to run a little faster."
She really has a lot of strong feelings about where people were born. No, I'm just kidding.
I wish you luck.
I
She's
feel
a
as
big
though I like her
price.
stretching back out in distance after that last race. It was disappointing. She needs to get out of the gate faster. She was flattered by the winner of that last race coming back to win yesterday.
Okay. I wish you luck. She will be a big price. Race number 3, we'll take a look at Quick Hammer and G Munning when they hooked up last time for Quick Hammer and 2 back for G Munning. And they sort of both had no choice. They kind of had to go. And it hurt their chances. I'm just not a big fan of either of these horses.
No, I'm not either. And I think that we both see some other horses that could be forwardly placed in this race. And even though they are adding the blinkers for G Munning, they are both horses that have been facing some, well, G Munning is a horse that faced better company last time. Quick Hammer, not quite as much. But I don't know. I don't really trust either of them. And I think that when you look at Quick Hammer, this is a reclaim for Ray Handel, who had him for, or a claim for Ray Handel that he had for a little bit of time. And it's taken him a long time to really spot him in a race where he could really be super competitive, but I think he's also seeing that this is a horse that has tailed off significantly.
Yeah, I'm not thrilled with either one. I thought it was a bad field last time, and they're better horses. Talk about Majestic Arc.
Didn't he run insanely well last time, considering? I mean, this is a horse that tried to stretch out in distance, was able to be forwardly placed, put away all forwardly placed horses like Bobby the Tank and Friday I'm in Love, and the winner and the second place finisher of that race closed from last and second last, and he was still around to almost nip third from Endowed.
I've got him second. I don't disagree with you. He's a very hard horse to like off his lifetime work, but his last 2 races have been improvements, and his last race was a big step forward. And I do think he has a chance to run. The problem is he was 50 to 1 last time, and he's going to be a fraction of that price today. But
Yes.
I'm not sure he can't win. I think if Pascal Moon can run at all, he's a complete cinch in this race. Now, obviously, there is some question, and even though Eric eased him in the stretch, he was hopelessly beaten when Eric eased him. Those were much better horses, but this is a horse that if he woke up today and remembered how he can run, he'll smother this field, because his race 4 back will crush this field. Even his race 3 back, where he was involved with a fast pace with much better horses, even 2 back. All those races are good enough to win, so you have to worry about the last race. And I thought because of the connections, he wouldn't be as short a price as he could be. I just thought he was horse to beat. But I agree with you on Majestic Arc. He ran well last time. I'm not a big fan of the others in here. We obviously saw this race.
Had his chances.
Yeah, we saw this race very, very similarly. Race number 4, I haven't heard from Lee Einseidler, and if he isn't bringing us sandwiches while we're on the air today,
I'm not picking his horse anymore.
It could be a fracture in our relationship. Let's take a look at Shlomo. And I don't know, Sarah, I don't want to bet against this horse.
Isn't he just so much so the horse to beat in this race? Not only based on his last race, of course, but even his first race kind of stamped him as a horse that had some talent and ability. And I like that progressive move that he took in terms of numbers in his second start. And these top 2 drew far, far ahead of the rest of the field in this race. And Silver Satin, while he had his chances, he's not a bad horse. I mean,
He'd run well in both of his prior starts. So, Lee was disappointed after the race, and I said to him, you shouldn't be disappointed. Your horse ran extremely well. He just found the one race in 20 in this class that wasn't going to win. He wasn't going to win in.
Exactly.
I mean, he really did run a winning race, and obviously you have to worry a little about Vetriano.
Sure.
I will say one thing. They liked this horse first time. He was even money. I thought he stunk.
He did.
Now, to be fair, he still ran a 61 buyer as a 2-year-old, so he could run a figure in the 70s now. But what was his excuse in that race? He was awful.
Yeah, I didn't really see one for him, and I know we saw some of those horses come out of that race and do okay in their next start, heading over to Finger Lakes for some of those stakes races. But at the same time, we haven't seen any superstars come out of that race.
I know, but I think it was a fair race. I think that you
Yes.
can argue very fairly the low 60 buyer is an accurate buyer for those kind of horses. So, routine improvement makes him the main contender. Now, obviously, if Shlomo runs an 80-plus figure, it's not
He's
likely
winning.
that Vetriano is going to beat him today. And I have some reservations with Vetriano. And listen, okay, he goes to Brad Cox. Last I knew, Chad Brown was pretty good.
He's okay.
And the other thing is, he really liked this horse. Now, maybe something went badly wrong. I suppose that's if you
I mean, we
like
haven't
him,
seen him in so
that's the
long,
reason, right?
so-
But he's going to have to run better. And I thought, he has it all. I know he sucked last time, but he had run very well prior starts. Maybe it was the mud.
First race was good.
I'll tell you something, even Mama's Middle, source comes out of the Panda Gate race, which is a very, very live race. So I kind of even wanted to give that horse a look. And there's a part of me that kind of wants to be a wise guy here and play the 4 over the 5, 6, 7 and hope to get the 6 out of there. Because I think 6 will be a clear-cut second choice in this
Yeah.
race, and both the 5 and 7 are sort of interesting players. So I may do more like a 4 with 5-7 type
Yeah.
play.
That's fair.
You know.
Mandatory payout pick 5 starts there as well.
I'm very excited about that, aren't
Yeah,
you?
I
Very
really
excited.
am.
Very
I should have
excited.
played last week's, is why I'm
Well,
so
there you go. We should
conscientious.
have done Sarah did have a lot of winners last week. That was an absolutely terrific performance, no
Thank
question
you.
about
So now
it.
I can not be as great today.
Well, it's it's
Ups and downs.
It's for better or worse. It's about a lot of different things. Race number 5, and I think in race number 5 that, in my opinion, Joseph Lee made the right decision in race 5 with Works With Me. We'll take a look at him in the Atlantic Beach last year. I think he's going to go to the front in this race, and there's very little chance that he's going to get caught in here. He'll be a short price, and he should be. This was an exceptional effort considering how quick the pace was that day. And he ran remarkably well in the Woodhaven. He got involved
He
in
did.
that Torridge battle early, and he really didn't quit until like the 8th pole of that race. And just going forward, he wants to go. In my opinion, Works With Me as a very talented turf sprinter. I think he had a real shot to win tomorrow's Paradise Creek, but I agree with Joseph Lee. Switching here, what do you have against this horse?
So I thought that he was going to run tomorrow, and he's a horse that I could definitely have moved up to at
Well,
least my second choice.
But you could have put him anywhere and then scratched him when he scratched today.
could have.
So that's a blousy excuse.
Well, it's just
I think
true.
you can make that $2 that you lost because I was so close.
I already said it was 2.
It's not 2.
I heard he said it was 2 because you were so
Oh, we have
over
it.
it with
No,
the
we have it.
time.
We have a double
And now
or
we have a
nothing
double
bet
or
on
nothing.
Who has the lead?
You
in
really
the
miss
first.
your lunch bets so much that now you want to bet a couple dollars?
Not really.
Aw.
Not really. I don't miss them.
I'm not
I
into
mean,
betting lunch
I
bets.
enjoyed the lunch bets. We had a
Yes.
lot of fun with the lunch bets.
They were fun.
And
How
there
many
was a time when Anthony bought me a few lunches, but
How many
the
lunches
place-
were you up at the
like
end?
150 something, but who's counting?
Not you.
Okay, I think this horse is much the horse to beat, but feel free to share with us your love of Destin's Mission.
I think that this is the horse that's going to be the closest to Works For Me. And you do have Works For Me as the 3-year-old taking on older company in this spot. And while I feel as though he is going to be in front in this race, and he is pretty good based on that race that we saw from him as a 2-year-old where he finished 3rd that we just took a look at. But I think the number 8 Destin's Mission is going to be closest to him. And he is a horse that has only run against New York Bred Company once, and it was on the dirt in his second start. I like that he's now getting in against the kind of company maybe he should have been facing all along, and that he'll get more of a forward trip.
Do you think that this is a softer field than the one he met last time? Because I don't.
I would say it's comparable.
Right.
Outside of Works For Me,
But if you
yeah.
think he's getting a New York bred company, you seem to sense that these horses blow up when they get in. They look around and go, oh, yeah, we were born in the same state. And they get all confident or something. I don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming out of a race that totally collapsed last time, that obviously had a very stern pace. So he had dynamics in his favor last time. And now, you know, I know he broke a little slow last time, but that's also a concern. Maybe he breaks slowly again, which would be a huge detriment to him in a race where the horse to beat is the speed. You know, we'll take a look at Seaver last time. Why is this horse coming in? And I don't particularly like Seaver here, but why is this shipper so much more likely to win than Seaver?
Seaver is one of those horses that I just have not really been impressed with his turf races as much as how he's moved up on synthetic. And he's also a horse that came from significantly far off the pace as well. And if you think Works For Me is going to be alone on the front end, I don't necessarily see how Seaver is going to be the horse that comes and catches him from the clouds.
I didn't pick him either, but I don't like your horse particularly either. The problem I have with that thinking is the argument is not what you said about synthetics. Because look at his last 3 races in isolation, and then take a look at his synthetic race in December. And don't give me layoff because he was coming off a brief layoff.
No, he's a horse that improved.
He's clearly improved.
Yes.
I think the argument for him is he's improved, and he transferred that synthetic improvement to the turf. So he may be an improved horse. I don't love him here, and I agree with what you said. I think because the pace, I want to have horses that are more forward here, including 26 Black. I think 26
He's
Black
the horse
is
to
the
beat,
biggest.
isn't
No, the horse to beat's the 4. The horse the 4 has to worry about. I don't agree with David. I don't think there's any chance the works for me is 5-1 in this race. I don't think there's a chance on earth this horse is 5. How can a stake-faced horse that's the closed speed be third choice at 5-1 in here?
3-year-old facing older for the first time.
Who cares?
Low profile connections.
Profile connections may matter, but I will be stunned if he isn't the favorite or close to favorite, and I will be absolutely stunned if he's the distant third choice to lose. David knows I'm right. At least he didn't make Gunsong 9-2. 26 Black got very good in those turf sprints, and then they tried to stretch out. But I think getting back to a turf sprint is horse is dangerous.
Yeah, no, I agree. And he's lightly raced, but he kept good company all throughout his time last year when he was running on the grass. I mean, I think that he makes a lot of sense in this spot.
What about Noble Emotion? He's certainly left here in good form.
Well, isn't he a horse that's just been facing much better horses except for his last race?
Right, but he completely and totally fell apart, and he's a 7-year-old. Isn't there just a more reasonable chance that he's just
Not
can't
very
run
good.
anymore?
Sure.
I mean,
but
he
be
was
a price
okay.
to find out, especially based on who he's faced as of late? He didn't
He
have a chance
hasn't,
in those
run in
races.
9 months. So he hasn't faced anybody as of late.
When you look back on his last couple of races,
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Okay. We'll see what happens in this race. I disagree with everybody here. That's the way I am. We'll be back with the coverage of the Pick 6 with a carryover.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Hi, we're back. Sarah and Andy. 5th is off the turf, off the supposed good turf at Pimlico.
It's
but
still
they're
good.
Off the turf. Wouldn't want to do that before the Pick 5 started. Anyway,
Nope.
Race number 6. I got to tell you right now, race number 6 and race number 7, I got to a point when I thought about setting up a dartboard and just throwing darts because
Yeah.
I have just no idea in these 2 races, 25,202 in the carryover. And I just, my problem is, Sarah, I just don't have a feel for these races. I mean, we start with Andy Cant. Okay. Andy Cant ran very well last time off the claim for Rob Atras, as evidenced here. But isn't he going to have to deal with speed from one or both of Principe Doro and Night Effect?
Yes, and isn't he a horse that's now facing better horses, second off the claim?
Yeah, so while I think he's not impossible and maybe he's an improved horse for Rob Atras, I
don't
just
want a
had
short price on him.
trouble. I don't know what price anyone's going to be in here. This feels like a deadly race. David will probably nail the morning line, but
Yes.
because somebody will be dead and somebody will be live. And
Yeah.
I mean, and there is no argument as we take a look at Debate's last race where he finished 3rd. He's just the horse to beat. I mean,
No, absolutely.
no Pick 6 doesn't have him as an A
Of course.
by anybody that actually makes money betting Pick 6s.
Right.
But
The repetitive thirds
Yeah,
and the fact
the
that
not
he
winning.
kind of doesn't really have a kick at all. He just sort of runs in place and doesn't have much to offer towards the ends of the races. And then with Night Effect as well, a horse that I think will be forward that I respect in this spot, he's not winning either.
I don't feel. Right. mile and an eighth also for debate. Are we really confident he gets
No.
better with more distance?
No.
Yes, he should get a good trip. I mean, at least with Night Effect, he ran well at a mile and an eighth, and he
Yes.
is the stalker and the speeds. He's not under the gun.
And he's outside.
But I had a lot of problem here. I have absolutely no idea, though, with what you like about Strapped, who to me was one of the few horses that couldn't win the race.
Don't you feel as though he was at least against the racetrack last time in his last start behind Mama's Goal? The day were speed and the
I don't
inside
care.
were very dominant. He was a horse that was trying to make up ground from further back against a horse that got pretty good with some track biases in his favor overall. I think that he was against it enough to at least give him an opportunity. And I just wanted a price in the spot because I didn't love the shorter priced horses in here in terms of Night Effect and Debate, who just haven't been able to get the job done.
5 to 9 month layoffs in dirt routes. Linda Rice is 6 for 36 with a $1.16 ROI. I don't know. I hear you. I just didn't think the horse was good enough. But hey, it's once again, as I said, it's a race that I have absolutely no feel for. I looked at Storm and Chrome. I don't love Storm and Chrome. But I found that Horacio de Paz is over 20% with almost a 250 ROI stretching out in the dirt. This horse has been effective going longer, hasn't won at a mile and an eighth. Probably can win without the lead, has won stalking a little bit as he did the day he won at a mile and an eighth. He's obviously not getting the lead, but he should get good position behind these. So I was looking at two stalkers, him and Debate. Debate's 2 to 1. He's 5 to 8 to 1 in here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you I love this horse, and I'm sure you wouldn't tell us you love Strapped.
No, of course
But in this race, I'm going to take a little shot, much as you're taking a shot with Strapped. But I mean,
I think this and the next race are the tougher legs of this sequence. for
listen,
sure.
we'll probably go 0 for 6 in the sequence, but, you know, it's hard because we make picks for every race, and I think it's important to suggest when we have a stronger opinion.
Sure.
So we had a scratch, a rocket and roll. We'll show Digital running second behind him last time. I like him cutting back. I don't know, though. He's just another horse that's got a lot more seconds and thirds than wins, and he can win. I didn't love him either.
And do you really want him for a short price? A horse that Linda claimed a while ago earlier this year for $25,000 and then picks up again for the $20,000. So
And for
clearly she wants him in the
16.
barn, but at the same time, he is who he is.
She probably went back in for 16 when he ran back and didn't get him, and then she went back in for 20. Yeah, he is who he is. He can win here. What did you do in this race? I thought it was a total mess.
I went to Majestic Frontier, a horse that was in a tough spot against Statebreds in his last start, and now is at least dropping back to a similar level to which he was claimed from. I felt as though he's just been one that's been running against much tougher horses overall. He hasn't been doing that much running, and I think that that's a valid concern.
I'm concerned that he found his rhythm for 2 or 3 races, and he's just kind of fallen. I agree with everything you said, but I'm just afraid, and I'm not. He could win. I'm not going to knock him at all. I see what you're saying. I'm just worried what you're saying at the
And
end.
he's tailed off.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a valid concern, but I think that this is also a barn that is realistic enough about where they spot their horses after a couple of races. They do move them up quite a bit, usually first off the claim, but if they're not performing at that level, they usually will be a little bit more realistic about where they belong, and he kept them at a pretty solid level for a while.
Well, he claimed the horse for 20, so he's not really taking a severe drop. He's just taking a realistic drop. You know, I look at Coffre as a potential winner here as the speed, but I feel like Predicted is going to be hounding him on the outside. So like you, I have him in my picks as far as All About the Money. Well, I think you can make a similar argument for All About the Money that you're making
Facing
for your
better.
horse. His form is a little more dubious, though I don't think it really is, because I don't care what he did on March 30 going 11 furlongs. So you take that race out, and suddenly you're looking at a horse that was running 70s and 80 plus buyers, and obviously his last one being the worst one. But, you know, that was a pretty good field that this horse was running against in relative terms to who he's running against today.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a square price. I don't love him, but I could make enough of a case for him.
Yeah,
Listen,
I thought about him.
I think the 1 can win. I think the 2 can win. I think the 3 can win. I think the 4 can win. I think the 5 can win. I
I
think
have
the
a little
7
bit of a
can
tough
win.
time with the 8, but that's it.
I don't even think he's impossible
He's
getting
not
claimed by
impossible.
David Jacobson, to be honest with you. So I have trouble making Predicted in this race, but other than Predicted, and it's 15 to 1.
Yeah.
They
Anybody. Even
know,
6% ran
maybe
okay
it
last
chalks
time.
out, right, absolutely. Maybe it chalks out to the first 2 legs. But these, I think a lot of players, like you said, these are tough to navigate. But then again, I don't think the 8th race is
not like
an
it
easy
gets a ton
race
easier,
either.
right.
It's a really fun turf race. It's a good card today, by the
This
way,
is.
and there's almost no scratches all day from the body
Yeah,
of the
very
race.
impressive.
We lost MTOs and stuff, so this feels like one of the best cards in that regard we've had in a while. We'll take a look at Operation Torch, who you have second, to start it out. And this is his second, the Mighty Program Trading. He just kept running into those Chad Brown-Klarovich runners. Activist Investing, I don't think, has run since not getting the best of trips in the Virginia Derby.
Kalik ran yesterday but missed the break, right?
I'll believe you. I know he ran
Okay.
yesterday. He's always been a weird, headstrong, tough horse to handle. You know, is this horse just going to get overbet because it's switching to Todd? But why
Yes.
are we supposed to assume that Todd's supposed to have an answer to a horse that Shug McGay didn't have the answer to? But maybe he's just good enough. If he runs that race, probably the horse to beat.
And I think you're dealing with a situation where you know what those horses have done since the time that he's been off. You know that he's kept good company overall, and he has shown some improvement from the start of his career to those last 2 races, particularly that one behind Program Trading. I don't know. I mean, even that regression in the last race, then he was off for so long. So maybe you can say that something was a little bit awry in there. But I just didn't want a super short price on anybody in here because I think you can make the case for several contenders in this spot.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a super short price. I don't think anybody can be. But for what it's worth, just straight 6 to 12-month laughs and turf routes. Todd Pletcher's 17% with 92 stars and $1.51 ROI. Off trainer switches, he's 1 for 9 with 63-cent ROI. Those kind of numbers are a little bit dubious. When you're 1 for 9, you could have been 2 or 3 for 9. So it's, you know, if he was 3 for 46, I would say, okay, he's had enough chances.
Sure.
But 1 for 9s are sketchy numbers. What did I miss about Torrigo?
I have Scramble on top in here. My picks are 8, 7, 4, 9.
Okay.
So
Can
nothing.
So can we correct Sarah's picks and make
if
them
I
8,
sent
7?
them in wrong, I will update them on the website.
She said
but
something
my bad.
wrong. She owes me $3.
No.
I'm sure you sent it
We'll see.
incorrectly. I blame Eddie
Yeah,
fully
who
for this.
knows?
Can we correct her picks, please, guys?
But
8, 7.
yes, I
So,
went 8.
well, I know what you like about Scramble. So while they're fixing the picks, Eddie, you can run Scramble's last race, and
Tell me
all
what
of
I
us
like
can
about
see
Scramble.
why Sarah and I think Scramble is dangerous here.
And I think you and I both think it's more than
He's
this
the last horse. He's out of the
race.
picture now. I'm sorry, but he's the 4.
Right, and you can see he had absolutely nowhere to go through the entirety of the stretch run of this race. But I think you and I both like him because of what he's done in addition to this race. And not
I want to
having-
get on that in a second.
Okay, this
Let's
is a
just
terrible
talk
trip.
about this.
He had nowhere to go.
Yes, I mean, Jose can barely ride him. And what I want to say is Jose does this too much. You
The
know,
Jose Ortiz is.
well, he did it with dynamic pricing in the Florida Oaks, and she came back with his brother. And unlike Jose, who dropped her back to dead last in that race with no concern about position at all, Irad did a good job of getting her mid-pack. This is the Edgewood, and she got up to win that race by a nose. And far too often, forgetting about the trouble in the stretch, he did save ground the whole way. He really never put this horse in a position where he could win the race. This is not a slow horse.
No,
What
he's
was
very
this horse doing 10th? I mean, he didn't break slow. Jose dragged him out of the race. Now, I don't think, and I could be wrong, that Barclay Tagg said, Jose, make sure
the
you're all the
return.
way in the back in this race, because this is the horse that in Saratoga, you know, Jose Lezcano gave this horse a great ride that day. My problem is something you touched on, and I have him second. How good is he really? I'm not sure he's that good. He's okay.
No. I don't know if he's that good either, but I think that he is your main alternative if you are a little bit suspect of Operation Torch.
Yeah, I don't agree, but listen, I've got him second. I think he's one of the big players in this race. Alexis Zorba can try to wire the field. He has the speed. You have to, if Ramon Vasquez isn't in front with him, assuming he didn't get
Overbet,
left,
so many
then that would be
chances.
almost as bad as. I think that right now the clubhouse leader is disarmed being rated yesterday.
Yes, that was
Why
great.
would you stretch him out and then not go to the front? But forgetting about that, he'll be in front, or Kirk Wyckoff will be
should be
blowing
close.
up my phone, screaming and yelling, and somehow blaming me. I'm just not quite sure how far he really wants to go at his best.
No, and I mean, I think that we all sort of have that bad taste in our mouth about this horse that came over and was bet like a good thing and kept running
No, that's a good point. And
Second.
listen, I fell for him hook, line, and sinker.
We all
so
did.
I
And then when he
did
finally
as
won, he
much
was
as
6-1,
anybody.
so.
I bet him when he won, actually.
Okay, did you make all of your money back?
More than it, but
Good.
it took a while. It took a lot. I don't understand your knock on Roos. Roos drew post 12 with absolutely no chance, with an inexperienced turf rider on him. He had run very well before. Is he a better horse to lead? Probably, but he ran well enough to beat these horses 2 back. And now he draws the rail with Romero Mirage, who knows how to get position. And I'm going to be very surprised if he's not forwardly placed in here. What do you have against him?
Do you really feel as though he is a horse that can do as well without that forward position necessarily
He's gonna
being
be
on
forward.
the lead?
He's going to be forward. I think he's going to be in the 6-1 range, and I think he's a very reasonable value play. I mean, you've got Royal Spirit on top, or not on top, I'm sorry, over him. I'll show you a stat for Linda Rice. She's got horrible numbers coming off these layoffs and turf routes. And what makes him good enough to be competitive here?
Company that he faced last year. I mean, Cyber Ninja at that time was a horse that looked like he was going in a positive direction.
But he was better going longer.
Royal Spirit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was better going longer. And
Yeah, it
doesn't
could
this
be a
race?
start.
Listen. Obviously, losing Francesco Clemente, who came back with a stakes win. Yes, you're 100% right. By the way, we haven't seen him since down there. I wonder if he got hurt. That's a shame because he could have
We
been a
should
real
ask.
player in there.
We should
I will
find
ask
out.
actually.
Yeah.
I just feel like this horse is prepping for longer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Look at this stat.
I think
You
with
look at
Roos-
him.
Yeah, it's completely fair. I think just with Roos, just company kept overall. I know that he ran that 94 buyer 2 back at Gulfstream. I feel as though that might be a situation where that's a figure that I'm not necessarily likely to see again from him.
I don't. Well, he's run 92s before. This horse, I think,
For
you and I
state run.
disagree. It's fine. We'll agree to disagree about him. I think a little bit of a wise guy horse to have you heard getting back on the turf.
I thought about
because
this horse for a second.
I wish he had a little more turf pedigree, to
I
be
know David
honest.
picked this horse.
Yeah, he comes out of a live race when he ran that race, and he did improve last time. So
improved
he's a bit
significantly.
fuzzy, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. A fun race, race number 8. It's good to have good turf racing. Yesterday's 8th race was a terrific race as well. The Vagrancy. We'll start with Big Pond, who I don't know what prices these horses are going to be, and I think you're insane in here. I hope you're right.
I was
but
surprised you didn't pick this horse.
why would I pick this horse? She can't win here. Big Pond, this is her good race, her 94 buyer. The problem with that 94 buyer is it sort of stands out among a lot of races that aren't quite good enough to win here. And I know she was in good company last time, and she did have a little trouble early, to be fair.
Sure.
But she was closing right alongside Vava. Now, nobody expects her to keep up with Vava, who would be 1-9 in here and would win. But she was just completely and totally outrun by that one in the last 3/16 of a mile. And I'm just not totally sold on her, but I do think she's the horse to beat switching to Mott.
See, I don't even think that. I think that this is a horse that...
You don't have her in the top 4?
No, I don't like her at all. I think that now switching over, she's a horse that met a very weak Grade 1 field in the La Brea.
She did.
And has those races against Calabrese that, yes, absolutely do stand out. But I think we saw from her last time when she comes over here and tries to face some of these tougher filly mare sprinters, she doesn't quite have what it takes to stack up. Now, this is an easier field than the Madison, significantly, but I just don't really see her as a major contender in this
We will
spot.
agree to disagree. We'll talk about Hot Fudge. And this is her win 2 back. I think the concern with Hot Fudge is...
Last race.
Well, no, it's not just the last race. It's that she got very good, and then she inexplicably ran badly last time. And while you could say it's a good sign that Linda's coming back relatively quickly, the next spot for her, is there a concern that she kind of her streak ran out, and can she get back? And how confident are you if she even runs this race or some of her races, she's necessarily going to win here?
Right, and I think with her, I know that she's a horse that ended up going to the lead after a very slight bobble in her last start in the distaff, but at the same time, I did not see a major excuse for her whatsoever in that race. She's a horse that had been very versatile in her running style, had been one that could be forward, could sit just off. She was extremely
She was bad, and that bothers me.
And it was quite a bit of a regression from the numbers that we had seen from her when she was on that win streak. And also from the rail, doesn't she have to go establish some sort of forward position?
You would think we have to keep moving this along. Now, as far as forward position, Beguine, I have a lot of love for Beguine. I ultimately decided to play against her in here. One of my concerns with her
You need the
is
lead?
that she's only The only 3 races she's won have been on the front end. And while the pace projector has her in front, the pace projector is not going to just take into account Leave No Trace's last race. And I have a lot of trouble thinking that Jose Lezcano and Phil Serpy want to rate Leave No Trace. And I'll tell you something about Leave No Trace. I don't disagree with what Phil said. He kind of made fun of himself after the last race and said, I finally got her back doing what she wanted to do. And I think she's a good example of, because she ran so well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, they kind of got deceived into thinking she was a router, when in fact she's really a dirt sprinter. And she's got to go in here, and I'm worried that she's going to go, and that's going to hurt Beguine. And I think what you said about Hot Fudge is true. At least Kendrick has to come out with running on his mind. I'm not saying he's going to get into an all-out duel.
And she doesn't need to be on the lead to be successful. We know that, but he needs to establish some position.
I'm worried that Beguine's not going to get the lead.
Right.
And I wonder I'm going to bet it. Maybe you're right. I think so. I mean, David has him a close price. Okay, you went off the reservation with Asset Purchase. Go ahead.
I mean, it's obvious that she needs to get faster. Anyone can see that from her races so far, but she returned off that lengthy layoff with a win where she got a nice setup. And I also think that she's going to get the right kind of setup in this race with the pace situation that we talked about as she takes that step up.
What is that setup she's going to get that's a nice setup?
Off of 2 horses that are going to go to the front, possibly 3.
But aren't you concerned that there are horses in front of her that are better than she is and horses behind her that are better than she is?
Don't you think that Beguine needs the lead to win? She's not going to get it.
I don't know that she's not going to get it. I still think Beguine without the lead is better than she is. Listen, I hope she wins. I root for my friend Seth with every horse he runs. And I get them taking a shot. They're taking a shot here. And she'll probably outrun her odds, but
she's less slow on time form in the last race than she was on fire.
Because she was near a fast pace. I get it. And her last race is a little better than it looks. But, I bet the horse of Linda's that ran like 4th or 5th in there that was closing, and she was awful in her next race. And I hope you're right. I don't see it. She's a big price. But then again, I'm picking Imonra, at least has faster races. My feeling with Imonra is I saw this as I don't trust the favorites. And Savvy Joseph came here with a horse that had no chance on paper the other day and ran a 98 buyer in winning the Ruffian and beating Randomized like a drum. She's got the 87 buyer 3 back behind a pretty good horse in Mary Quite Contrary. So it's not as though, and those are her 1-turn races, she hasn't run at least a faster figure. And I'm just thinking as a sort of new face beating this group, she could be interesting. Listen, I hope you're right about Asset Purchase. Nothing would make me happier than to see Seth win this race. I just don't see it on paper. Race number 10. I think this is one where we actually agree.
This is the only one where we agree today,
But let's talk about Stolen Future, who I think is the horse to beat. You have 3rd, I have 2nd. I mean, I just don't have anything to knock about this horse's races. The only concern for me is the horse coming up a long layoff, but I'm going to show you a stat that suggests that this horse is probably going to be ready to run.
Yeah, I mean, I have no big problems with this horse. I feel as though this horse can establish forward position. This was a good effort finishing 2nd to one of our favorite horses, Master of the Tunes. But I also kind of wonder if this was that time period at Belmont last year where the turf course was really firm and the times were playing a little bit quicker as well.
But that doesn't affect the speed figures, and the speed figures are pretty good.
It is. I'm just saying that then we saw that regression in her next start. I know that then she
that
was
was
off
a
for
7-furlong
time.
race.
Miss Big Bucks wired, but
Didn't get a very good trip in that race,
No,
to be
she
kind.
didn't.
It was kind of a foolish ride. I don't know why she
think
wasn't more forward.
she needs the lead to win. Yet to be determined.
Well, she won ratings, so no. My answer to that would be an unequivocal no. Will she be outrun by the 2? I'm not sure she will be. It depends. Kendrick may be more aggressive than Ramon Vasquez. I think Zora's to beat. Marks has good numbers off layoffs. What do you like about Fancy Pants Juliana?
When you go back to her first race, which was her turf sprint debut, I felt as though she ran really well. And she ran a decent number that at that age with the progressive improvement, you have to imagine that she could improve on. And while Little Lindsay has turned into more of a dirt horse, she's okay. And even in that race, that was her 2nd turf start, she didn't get out of the gate all that well. She had a little bit of a trip in there. She had to steady and lose some position early on in that race. Then they go to a different surface with her. She wasn't that good. Well, now getting back on the turf, I think that she deserves another opportunity based on that first race, as well as the trip that she had 2nd time out, to rebound and possibly show that she might be able to be okay.
What I don't understand about her is why the heck she went to Finger Lakes in the spring, summer of last year, and then why Dave Donk never ran her on the turf last fall or even tried. Now, for all I know, he entered her a couple times and got rained off, but given he entered and ran on the dirt, why wouldn't he have stayed in if they came off? So She seems to me, to be honest with you, to be a grossly mishandled horse. Now, there was an argument that the front end of the figure first time out was too high, except the problem is that horses like Moondog the Daydream, whatever, the horse that beat her last time, was also in that field. I think finished 5th. Other horses did improve out of the race. This horse's 2-year-old races are good enough to be competitive here and with routine improvement. Now, why was this horse never in the turf? Dave Dunk does not have great numbers coming off layoffs, but this seems to me to be a horse that, frankly, looking at the PPs, for whatever reason, was woefully mishandled. I don't understand how you could run that well and then just abandon the turf.
And I think that if you only look at her turf races, what price would this horse be in here?
Oh, I agree. No, I think she's very logical. I'm with you on her. I don't, I know some people think Dusk is better than she looks. I think Dusk beat a terrible field last time. I think Beach Cruiser is dangerous. The horse you have second. I don't think there's anything wrong with her. I think she fits fine in here. I just like you. I like the 6. I think we saw this race kind of similarly. I think Graham is dangerous in here. Graham had that big trip and then won, and I think Graham deserves another chance in here. I'm worried about Graham a little more than you, but not, I'm going to use Graham.
Yeah, I mean, Graham makes sense. I feel as though in that race that we're going to show with a stone's throw away.
We're not showing it.
Oh, we're not? Okay,
no,
well.
Because I wanted to show them in comparison.
Yeah, I mean.
And everybody knows that Graham had a terrible trip that day.
Absolutely.
I just want to show them in comparison.
Yeah, no, with progressive improvement from 2 to 3, I think that you can obviously assume that this is a horse that's going to take a step forward.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I can assume. I'm hoping she does, and I'm hoping that she's a little under bet because they'll be deceived a little by the dirt races. And as you said, and I agree with you, if she just had 2 starts, I got to ask Dave Donk. I really do, because Dave's
was another trainer for a little bit. So.
No, but she was with Dave last fall, and
yes.
I couldn't have any more respect than I do for Dave, so I'm kind of wondering why. And my guess is I'm going to say it to him, and he'll probably chuckle like he does and say, yeah, I probably blew it. Would probably be his answer. And listen, even the best get it wrong sometimes. It's just a little odd. Maybe she can't run at all anymore. I don't know. Race number 11. I'm going to start with Justin Nye's second place finish here. Keeneland last fall at Lady DeBerry, who finished second as a heavy favorite in a stake out at Del Mar in the next start. She has not come back for Chad Brown since then. I just got some terrible news. Oh, no. Lee Einseiler not coming today.
That's devastating.
No sandwiches.
No sandwiches?
I don't really care about seeing Lee. I have this horse ran extreme kidding. I love Lee. I know the horse underperformed last time, but from a speed figure standpoint, didn't really. And I'll be honest with you. I thought Chantilly Road was in a terrible field. I didn't love the horse that beat her. I thought that she won because it was a bad field. I'm also not convinced she's getting the lead over the Taco Lady. And I'm scared of first-time starters more than anything in this race. But the ones that ran, I put it on top. You obviously saw it differently. You like Chantilly Road. I don't love her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that was the greatest field, but I do like the experience that she has in switching over to the turf, that there was that move up, and she is a horse that can be forward. I agree. I don't really see her on the lead in that spot, but we see slow paces around here pretty frequently.
Well, the question is, what's the Taco Lady going to do? I'm a little afraid she was a runoff last time, but I also don't think that Kendrick is going to be far back. He's got to come running out in the inside. So even if you think the 5 is going to be in front, I don't see Kendrick being compromised by that. The horse I don't love is Our Finest Hour. I don't love the field this horse comes out of, and it's kind of odd that this was, I think, a Michael Dubb horse that they sold, right? Dubb, and I can't see the rest of it because Chad had this horse in Florida. I mean, she had chances for Chad. I guess she's not impossible switching to Maker.
No, I mean, what did we really see from her last year? I think that's the argument that you could make with her. What running did she really do in any of those 3 races? And maybe she takes that step forward for new connections, but I didn't see enough to try to take that chance with her. And
I like you, think the 9 is very dangerous here.
Absolutely.
Now, for people that wonder about jockeys and they say, well, Eric Cancel's in Chantilly Road, Manny's riding Opera de Revel, they must like Opera de Revel, and maybe they do, I don't know. And I don't care. I don't care. Keep in mind that with the connections, and I imagine that Manny Franco and his agent, John Panagot, they're going to ride the Matacat horses. So I'm not saying the horse is or isn't better, but I think it's more about who the jockey agent is in this situation.
With Eric Cancel and turf routes, Chad Brown is 5 for 19 past 5 years, 26%, $6.33 ROI.
Well, that certainly shows what a great trainer Chad Brown is. I think Opera de Revel is dangerous because I don't think there's any killers in this race.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anything else?
No, I think that's pretty much
Hey,
it.
look. Oh, they are soft. They have changed the soft.
Oh, wow.
Thank you for changing the soft. They continue to pretend it's good, the main track, but I'm glad to see the turf is listed as soft.
And you said one of the turf races upcoming is
The
now
fifth
off?
is
The
now
fifth
off.
is now off. I got some selections to update, apparently.
You really better get at that.
I know, very
Anyway,
important stuff.
we're done. We got to go on TV in a few minutes and actually really work for a living, or whatever you call this. Head over to Naira
Whatever it
Bets. We want you to go to nairabets.com and use the promo code MATCH200. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. Track stats, check them out when you're over there as well for our main man, your roommate, and a hardworking man. Pick six carryover, 25,200, starts in race 6. That would be Matthew DeSantis, we're of course referring to. It's like a whirling dervish. Does he sleep?
No.
I didn't think so. Middle pick 4, race number 5. Middle
But I
pick
do.
5, mandatory payout, which means you must pay the pool because we only run it with 11 race cards. That'll start in race number 4. So a third pick 5 in race number 4, a third pick 4 in race number 5. Eddie. $40 bonus, bet 200 or more at each Belmont at the Big A and Pimlico, and we will give you $40 back for Preakness Day. And cross country Big 5, 3 at Belmont, 2 at Monmouth. All these races will be shown in America's Day at the Races. Starts at 12:30, 12:30 to 5, and then back on at 9 o'clock, Acacia and the legendary Hall of Famer. He's got to be in the Hall of Fame, right? He's got to be. John
Maybe
Campbell.
you willed it into existence.
Do you know where the Hall of Fame, where the Harness Racing Hall of Fame is?
I don't. Tell me.
Goshen, New York.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Very
it
cool.
is. You have 30 seconds to tell us who you like in the Preakness.
Mystic Dan.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Want to give us a...
Well, I
15.
only have 30 seconds. I mean, I feel as though with no speed to his inside, I want him to establish that forward position that he did in the Derby when he was sitting off of an extremely hot pace and was the one sticking around at the end with closers coming up to him. I think that in this spot, there's going to be less of a hot pace than in the Derby, and I'd like to see him forward.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think the Derby was a quick pace. I don't think it was an extremely hot pace.
Well, it got rid of everybody else that was ahead of
El
him.
Miramati lost.
Of course. Third best this time.
Sorry, Frank. You know, I should have known because you told me in the winner's circle. Yeah, I think that you're going to see Seize the Gray go and Imagination, he go off the front. I'm not a fan of either of their chances. I think Mystic Dan is dangerous in here, and frankly, if he's 3-1, I think he's a fair price. So I can't argue with that. I prefer Tuscan Gold. I thought ran very well last time,
I
and
picked him
I
second.
like Just Steel. I think Just Steel's going to run much better today with a rider switch to Joel Rosario. Thank you, Sarah. We're done. Chris Griffin, I saw him earlier. He was pretty excited.
He's
He's
pumped.
even more excited now as we get ready for a reprise to Scratch and Changes. Have a great day.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.